Hey guys, Mark Hale for the New York Post, here to preview the first round of the NBA playoffs with the great Peter Vecsey, our NBA columnist. We're going to start today with the Eastern Conference, and we'll begin with the Knicks-Celtics playoff series, highly anticipated around here. It'll begin Sunday night. And Peter, when you look at this series, the Knicks and Celtics played 3 times that were meaningful during the regular season. The Celtics did win all 3, but all 3 were close games. And one of the questions has to be, is this Knicks team of Amari Stoudemire and Chauncey Billups and Carmelo Anthony, are they ready to put a scare into the Boston Celtics and maybe even take them out in the first round?
Well, I've been maintaining for a few weeks now, even before it was sure that they were going to play each other, that if they did, that the Knicks could beat them and would beat them. Based on looking at what's going on with the Celtics, they're basically coming apart at the seams. I think they've lost 11 out of the last 20. The Knicks, though they haven't really beaten anybody but slugs and the Pacers in the last 7 or 8 games, they are coming together. You can see that. Well, I can say they're coming together, but you don't have Amari Stoudemire in there with Melo, so I guess you really can't say they're coming together.
Right.
That remains to be seen what happens when those two guys play together, because when they did, Amari seemed to get lost on the offense, and it became Melo's team. But Mark, my thing is with these two teams is that when you start a 7-game series, there's always a feeling people out, feeling guys out process. That's what they say. In this series, the Knicks cannot afford to have any feeling out process. They must come into this series and emasculate the Celtics in Game 1. They cannot allow the Celtics to remember how to take care of business. They can't allow them to let their know-how kick in. They can't allow them to recuperate their confidence and figure out how to incorporate Jeff Green into the offense, or Jermaine O'Neal's coordination on his offense. He could find that. So Game 1 is all important for the Knicks to win.
And Peter, when you look at this series, I mean, and you're obviously very confident in the Knicks' ability to beat Boston, is there a key matchup in your mind? Is it, Rajon Rondo, I think, averaged 17 assists against the Knicks in the first 3 games. Do the Knicks have to slow down Rondo? Is it containing Garnett? Is there one thing in particular that you think the Knicks need to do, or do you just think that it's a better period?
There are a bunch of key matchups, Mark, but the key is that Amari Stoudemire negates Kevin Garnett. You do not have to double team Garnett as many teams do. Although he's getting older, you really don't have to do that much anymore anyway. So the other thing is you don't have to, Billups has an immense problem with quick guards. So Rondo is one of the quickest guards there is, but can't shoot. So He can back up on him, and you don't need Tony Douglas as much unless Rondo starts penetrating and then creating problems with the defense. And I use that term loosely. So you don't have to double team Rondo either. So that allows the Knicks to play Paul Pierce one-on-one. You don't have to cheat off Ray Allen, which is always a mistake anyway. I never understand why anybody would leave that guy open for a split second.
Yep.
It's over when you do. And that means that those two guys do not get the open shots that they normally get. And then at the other end, you must make those guys play defense. So if you make Pierce play guard Melo for more minutes than he wants to, or for more time on the shot clock than he wants to, the Knicks have to be smart about that. They have to not take quick shots. Melo has to not take quick shots. They have to move the ball, make the Celtics get old right in front of our eyes, and make them play on one end so it tires them out on the other end. And so there are 3 or 4 key matchups there.
Last thing on this series, Peter, before we get to the other ones in the East, is the Celtics' struggles down the stretch. It's obviously been well documented that last year they did not play well, or particularly well, in the second half of the season. The playoffs came and they basically erupted. Is something similar possible for Boston, or are these struggles indicative of a real problem?
Well, I think the it would be easy for me to say that the same thing could happen. But if that were true, I don't think that Doc Rivers would have benched his star players for the previous game when when home court advantage in the second round, if they play Miami, it was up for grabs, and he decided to basically throw the game, and so he's not thinking about later rounds. Doc Rivers is thinking about first round, first game of that first round. Let's get our players as much rest as we can, the key guys, because who knows how long they can take us in. But he's not thinking about second round. And you know, we haven't even mentioned Shaquille O'Neal. Will he play? You know, to me, Mark, it doesn't matter if he plays in this series at all, because to me he slows them down.
Yeah.
It really, you don't miss him one way or the other. But the Kendrick Perkins, losing him in that, giving him up in that, surrendering him basically in that trade to Oklahoma City, getting Jeff Green back and Nenad Krstić. If you're not going to take advantage of Jeff Green's offense, and I'm a fan of his, believe me, but he is not showing that he feels like he's welcomed on their team. The players were angry that Perkins was traded. It doesn't feel like he feels like he has no confidence to shoot, because if he misses, he feels that maybe the players will get on his back. That has to change. You must get contribution out of Jeff Green.
All right, now let's move on to the Bulls-Pacers series, Peter, where the top-ranked Bulls, 61 wins and counting, going to the final game of the season. And when you look at this series, the teams played 4 times during the regular season. Chicago won 3. How about this? Their last 31 games, the Bulls are 27-4. Is Chicago the team to beat, and do you expect them to make quick work of Indiana, or does Indiana's balance and you know, the way they've been playing give them a shot here?
Well, they're a very physical team, Indiana, so let's just start with that. They've got some big boys that are willing to throw their weight around. They're playing basically the way Bird played as a player, even though he's not the coach, but he is the team president. And so Chicago's going to have to deal with that in a wise way. They can't react if Hansbrough knocks Boozer down or knocks Rose down. They can't overreact. They have to go with the flow. If they do overreact, they're playing right into the Pacers' hands. Now the Pacers have really come on strong. Their coach Frank Vogel has done a terrific job and deserves to take the interim tag off him. Bird will take it off him next year probably. But their problem is they've got, their problem is also their best player, in my opinion. When Darren Collison penetrates and gives the ball up and shares the ball, they're a much better team than when he shoots too much. This team moves so much better when he's giving up the ball, and Granger isn't hogging it either. And this is a key. This is why they gave Granger all the money to really get into a series like this and be a major factor. So and at both ends, not only on defense, not only on offense, but on defense as well. But having said all that about the, I don't look for the Pacers to win the series, but I do think they're going to give the Bulls a hard time. Getting to Chicago, everything I'm hearing and reading is that the Bulls don't have playoff experience to go, more than a round or two. To me, that's total nonsense, Mark.
Yep.
First of all, Rose and Dang, they had tremendous experience in the last two playoff series, the last 2 years against the Celtics. They won 7 games against the Celtics, 2 seasons ago. They had 5 or 4. They went 5 last year, but 3 of them were very hard fought. So you've got great experience from those 2 guys.
And then Boozer and Korver too, right?
Yeah, was that?
I said, and Boozer and Korver too.
Well, no, but those guys. So I'm getting to those guys. But those guys have all the guys they got from the Jazz have all that experience from the Jazz, and Boozer and Korver, and even what's him called, the kid from Arkansas who just hurt his finger. But they've got experience. So I don't look at that as being any problem at all. They all say, well, it took Michael Jordan, 4 times to win a series before he finally won a series in the playoffs and stuff. You can't even compare it to that. You can't compare it to Garnett taking how many times did he get knocked out in the first round before Minnesota finally got into, made some headway in the playoffs. This is a totally different team that's built on defense and built on Rose being able to get wherever he wants on the floor and just taking over the game, which certainly Jordan did, but Rose would be picking up more assists, and so I don't see experience being a problem. The only thing I do see as a problem in the later rounds is Keith Bogan starting at off guard. You get Corver coming in for him, and when you got a guy starting and playing 20 minutes at the off guard and only averaging 4.4 a game, that seems like it could be a problem. But my last thought on the Bulls is that when you have a guy like Luol Deng, who was paid an exorbitant amount of money to be the star of the team a few years ago and could not live up to that, fine. Now he's the third player on the team. He's the third offensive player on the team. We haven't even mentioned Noah's defense or everything he does, Joakim
right.
Noah. But third in offense on the team, he becomes a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he might be as great a player as a third player in this league as Chris Bosh is to the Heat. Maybe even better. So that's the way I look at him. So they've got terrific offense, terrific defense. I could see them getting to the finals.
That's I praise for Deng, and you mentioned Bosh. Let's get to the Heat and the Sixers, and obviously Miami, Peter, 14-3 since that 5-game losing streak they have. They've beaten Philly every time. They've played them this season, but here's Miami. They haven't won a playoff series since they won the championship 5 years ago. Philly hasn't won a playoff series since Larry Brown was there in 2003. Somebody's streak is going to end. I would think it's hard to go against Miami in this one, but there'll be a big spotlight on the Heat 3, won't there be?
Mark, I can't see the Sixers doing anything worthwhile in this series. Lou Williams, his progress on his hamstring. Who knows if he's even going to play or be any kind of a factor in this series. How do you guard Wade? Iguodala has to guard him, move over from small forward, play Wade. Thaddeus Young has to play LeBron when he's in the game. There are so many mismatches for them. It doesn't really matter that the Heat doesn't have a real good center. They do it by committee, 4 guys at center. Against Spencer Hawes, it really doesn't matter. I really can't, as good as Brand has played this year, and as much as I loved, Drew Holiday, and I just can't see them winning more than a game in this series.
All right, and now our last first-round series in the East, Peter, is Orlando and Atlanta. This was a second-round matchup last year as well, and Orlando destroyed the Hawks. They won in a 4-game sweep. They won by an average of 25 points a game. But then Atlanta came back this season, and Atlanta won the season series. So how do you kind of, solve that, Peter, when you look at this series? Which way do you go when you look at Dwight Howard and company against this Hawks team that's kind of been the same core of players for the last 3 or 4 years?
Okay, well, I don't see any way that Orlando isn't heavily favored in this, despite the 1-3 record against the Hawks. I see Stan Van Gundy is trying to make people believe that Atlanta is a better team because of the 3-1 season record. I hope the Hawks players don't read that or buy into it. The garbage. But to come off an 0-4 sweep in last season's second round and to play the team that humiliated you is really kind of, it's an unbelievable thing to have the chance to either, confirm what happened last year, that you're a bunch of quitters, or to change the perspective and show that that this team is for real. At one point they were 33-18 at the beginning of the season. Then they went 11-19, and they got blown out a lot, and they blew a lot of games that they had big leads. Larry Drew, the coach, will probably be fired if they lose the first round. They might even get fired anyway. The team doesn't have a leader as a coach or a player, but they've made some changes. That this is their defining moment of this team, this series, because if they look badly, or even if they get knocked out in the first round, they must start changing. They must start renovating. But they already started the renovation by getting Kirk Heinrich.
Yep.
And so it's a little different this year when you've got Kirk Heinrich and Teague going up against Jameer Nelson on defense and offense versus Mike Bibby and Teague or Jamal Crawford last year. Much better. Heinrich can be the leader of this team, but he just showed up too late to be the leader. He will be the leader next year. So this is certainly, how do you guard Howard? You've got Jason Collins who was about 300 pounds last year. He's about down to 259. He can play Howard one-on-one, so they don't have to double. They don't have to. He'll get his points and rebound. There's no question, but you're not going to get killed on three-pointers from outside if you don't have to double on Howard. So the Hawks do have an outside chance, I believe, Mark.
If the Hawks lose this series, Peter, you think they break up this team?
Well, like I said, they've already started the renovation, but to say that they're going to tear it apart after making the playoffs, 4 or 5 years in a row, and this year they won 20 games on the road with one game to go on the road, and rested the players at three other games down the stretch where they could have won away games. You don't tear that apart. You renovate it a little bit. You overhaul in certain spots. You must get a center that can allow Horford to switch, or Al Horford to switch over from center to power forward, his natural position. You've got to get a guy who can block some shots, play some defense, so that Josh Smith doesn't have to be the only shot blocker on the team. They'll have to do that whether they win or lose. But if they lose, and if they lose badly, they're going to look to move, two big pieces or a piece or two, to go along with. And you get Heinrich come back, Joe Johnson, and Horford. Those would be the three guys that they would keep for sure.
All right, we finished the first round here for the Eastern Conference. We're going to do the Western Conference as well, so tune back in for that, and we'll have more with Peter Vecsey as the playoffs go on. For the New York Post, I'm Mark Hale.